Yep, it's saying we are now live.
Dude, I don't even care about Instagram no more. Like,
Really?
I really don't. To be honest, I'm kind of over it.
I think a
Like,
lot of people are having issues with going live. Even Kendra G was having a thing where they had cut her down to an hour, and she was like, "This is weird. I've been having my show," and then when they did it for Not Your Typical Girl Talk, and down now we're back to being able to go like a little bit over an hour. So I don't know. Hello, 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 hello,
yeah,
hello.
I don't really care about Instagram.
Rob is basically talking about his frustration with Instagram and how we continue. Should I move or move in? Here we go. How we continue to use it as a platform because it can be frustrating. So we are also simultaneously on YouTube through StreamYard, but it's now getting people over to YouTube, which would be what we need to
and
do.
the views are growing on YouTube. So again, Instagram is more for like marketing to me. Like, but as a platform for your content, that's why everybody on TikTok basically because it works.
But TikTok doesn't have long form.
That's why
stuff,
everybody's
right?
on TikTok.
Thank you,
This
Film
is for
Star.
the
Thank
older
you.
people that aren't on TikTok, and
Well,
the
I'm
young
the old
ones,
folks. Are the
they
old folks. I'm old
they're
folks.
on
So
TikTok watching clips and snippets and making their decisions based off of that.
well, Rob did tell me I should probably hire an intern to kind of assist with getting some of this other technology going. So we will see. But tonight we are going to have a true fuck your feelings conversation, and it's really a fuck our feelings conversation. If you came in with the title, it says I'll never be number one in Rob's life. Will we survive? And we're talking about the idea of being number one in your partner's life. Is that a thing? Is that something that people desire? I think it is. We've got some poll results, and we're basically going to answer the questions, and we're going to have a conversation, real life, about how we feel in this relationship and who do we think is number one in each other's life and how that works. Is it something that we could live with for the rest of our lives if one of us, mainly I, think that I am not number one in my person's life? But I'm gonna get some stuff out. So Rob, you chat away. I'm gonna get some stuff out on mine and then get some stuff out on yours.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, it's just an interesting. Like, I think we're gonna start doing a bit of like behind the scenes to give you guys some additional content and change things up. As we're heading into season 3 here on Fuck Your Feelings, the show. But so we were talking kind of what we're going to be discussing tonight and along those lines and stuff like that. And I just thought that the conversation was very interesting, and we're going to take some snippets of that and try to move the conversation along this evening. But one of the things that I thought is like, who's number one? I was like, is that really a thing? I don't really look at it like every person in your life is stacked rank. That's kind of a different perspective to me. But it led to us having a conversation of the analogy of where they say men's minds are like waffles, and that how a waffle is, it's got all these little divots in it going across, and that men tend to deal with the issues like those individual pockets, those individual divots. This thing don't necessarily got nothing to do with this thing over here. And the analogy also states that women's minds are more like spaghetti, like everything touches on the plate. You know what I mean? Everything is connected. Everything got something to do with something else. And it's again one of who says Mother Nature ain't got a sense of humor, just because again one of the areas where men and women are just wired differently. It's not no coincidence that men and women, male female relationships have always, since the beginning of time, been difficult. Would you agree with that statement?
Okay.
You don't think so?
I'm actually not paying attention because
you're not even listening to me. Oh, interesting. So we do have that on. We do have that now presentable for you folks. You guys were all my witnesses. Those of you that are in here, that she likes to say she always is paying me attention and always listening and always right on top of what I'm saying. But we just caught her. Understandably, she's sending out invites, and yes, you do have the ability to tune me out too. So I'm glad that we unfurled that. Yeah, definitely ready to move on.
Moving on. So, if someone told you you'll never be number one in their life, would you be okay with that? Would you move on in a relationship? I'll ask you that question.
Well, I think that's you. I don't know. I don't want to ruin the poll or ruin kind of the segue of the conversation.
Okay, I just want you to answer the question. Can we just, if I told you you'll never be number one in my life, would you have entered the relationship?
When it's stated like that, it doesn't sound very appealing, to be honest with you.
Exactly. Most people would not enter a relationship.
I don't want to be number two.
If told you'll never be number one. But the reality of life is most people are not number one in the person's life that they want to be number one.
And why is that?
Because there are other priorities that people may have. And I think, you said something interesting to me last night, and again, it's going to delve into this, was the fact that for some men, their woman, as long as their woman is the number one woman in their life, it shouldn't matter, right? Because she's the number one woman. You're cleaving to me over your mama, your auntie, your grandma, your whomever. Whereas in women's mind, we might think that's great, I'm the number one woman, but again, I'm still in a lower rank. Like I'm not really number one, but I'm the number one woman. I never thought about it that way at all. That like it's hey.
I never thought about it like I'm not really number one, but I'm look. I think it's just very different ways of looking about it. If you go, I remember. Okay, my senior year, there were like 6 New York State championship basketball teams.
Okay.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because there's 6 divisions.
Got it.
Because this school doesn't necessarily compare to this school.
Okay. Yes, I get. So there were 6 number ones because there were 6 divisions.
So that's kind of how men tend to look at it. Like, so what do you mean? That invalidates that championship because those other guys won theirs?
No, not in the terms of basketball. But you're also now dealing with. No, I get that, but you're also now deal with, and we have a show called Fuck Your Feelings. So again, we're having a true Fuck Your Feelings conversation because, that sounds all great. Theory's wonderful until you get feelings involved. I would like to think, and we're going to go to the poll.
And we're wired different.
We are wired different. And this is why we even came up with the concept of Fuck Your Feelings, the show.
Yeah.
It's because of how wired differently we're wired and how it was important for us to be able to have a conversation where we were both heard without the conflict that sometimes arises in relationships. And so you guys are really going to have an insight in what a true Fuck Your Feelings conversation. I prepared Rob with one of the answers I had for him because I don't ever believe in being in a situation where he's blindsided. I would never do that to him. I would never blindside him. But I think he was actually blindsided by the answer I had for him because he was like, what? I had no idea. And again, it's because we're wired differently. So we're going to go through the poll questions and we're going to be answering them. And feel free to ask us any questions. But if you came in, you saw where it was, I'll never be number one in Rob's life. Will we survive? Now, if you were to ask Rob who's number one in your life, if you had to order it, and I had the poll question, and it was in terms of your spouse or significant other, yourself or your children, how would it rank? Who would be number one?
Is that for me?
Yes, I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to give the poll results.
I voted.
I didn't look at your vote.
Because after we had the conversation, again, remember.
Can answer the question.
Me? Yes, I told you that's a no-brainer.
So if you had to rank you're me, or the children, you're number one.
Yes.
That wasn't your answer last night before I told you that.
Because I told you I didn't know that I could vote for myself. When you run for president, you don't think of it like who would you vote for. When they ask you who would you vote for, you say some other guy.
So
because you can't vote for yourself.
So who's number one in your family was a question that we had. And again, the options were you, spouse or significant other, and child or children. 43% of people said you. And most of those were men.
That's how we're wired.
Because most men said that they were number one in their life. And then children and significant others were tied at 29% each. 29% each, where people said either their spouse or their significant other, same thing, or their child or children.
You got to factor in single people.
Which is why
of course it's going to be the kid second because there is no significant other and stuff like that. But I don't think that your kid should be above your partner. But that's with the caveat of that's why, again, remember we had the conversation a bit about it finally really dawned on me how precarious dating is as a single mother, because you're really putting, the entire relationship into a difficult position for the man, as far as for him stepping into it, because it's just different.
Well, I'm going to answer the question in terms of who I think.
How did you answer it?
How did I answer it? Okay, so how I answered it, I put child, my child. My child,
that makes sense.
Because I spent 19 years raising her in mostly alone. Her dad and I broke up at year one. We spent her first birthday party together and really not much birthday parties until she got older. So yeah, I had to focus on, if I wanted to create a high level child, which I did, I created a very high level child, I needed to invest. Now, when we answer the question in terms of in the relationship, who I think is number one in Rob's life, Rob is right. Rob is number 1, 2, and 3 in his life.
I would have put it that.
No, you are. You are 1, 2, and 3. And if I'm honest, I would almost feel better if Rob had answered his children, because I can get that. I can honestly get if you put the children. But when you put you, for me, I think it's difficult for me because I'm like, damn. So what the hell?
I get it. I get why it is. But the same way that we had it is because we're different. The analogy I gave you last night was as follows. I'm on a tightrope.
Okay.
By myself with no safety net. If I fall, I go split-tooey on the ground beneath me. You and the kids are also on a tightrope, except you have a safety net. Me. That's the difference. I see why and again, as a mother, I think the most appropriate answer is the answer that you give. But as a father, as a man, how can I make someone more? If we're playing chess, when is the game over?
I don't.
Okay. Well, for those that are not chess literate, the game is over when the king falls.
Okay.
You can lose every other piece on the board technically and still win the game with just your king.
Got it.
But if that king gets in a position he can't get out of, it's called checkmate and the game is over.
So see, that's why that's difficult for me to understand. And I understand quite a bit, but I have to be honest, living with you and in the space that we live in, it's difficult for me to accept that you come before your children. It's very difficult for me because
you're a mother.
No, but your children
No.
Let me continue.
Okay.
Because your children are not my children. They're your children. And therefore your children, to me, in my mind, should come before you because they're your children. And I'm supposed to be the Scottie Pippen in your life. I'm not supposed to be Michael Jordan raising your children. So for me, your children should come above you because you're the parent that they have in the situation. So when you are 1, 2, and 3, it makes me feel, because I'm a mother, and you're right, I'm a mother who put my child ahead of me, which is why I'm having a relationship kind of like we're having later on in life, because I had to put her first. After my first marriage fell apart, I kind of strayed away a little bit from relationships because I saw the impact that that had. So for me, it's difficult for me because I'm like, as a parent, forget just as a man, when you're the sole parent, wouldn't it make sense that the children are the priority and not yourself?
Do you realize the beginning of your sentence was forget as a man? How do I do that?
Because I think sometimes being a parent takes priority over gender.
Because you're a woman. You know why you don't identify with what I'm saying?
Why?
Because you don't have a dick.
I get that.
You don't have a dick. If you had a dick involved, you'd be agreeing with me.
I don't know. Maybe the guys are going to have to tell me because I think.
Fellas, if you think that your kids should be driving the car, therefore they're more important than you are, please send me an invite and holla at me.
Here's the thing. I don't see it the way that you do.
Because you don't have a dick.
Listen, I don't see it the way you do. It's not about them leading. It's not about them driving the car. But when you wake up in the morning, to me, your first concern should be your children and not yourself.
Because you're a mother. Them kids ain't about to feed me.
I get that. Trust me, I get that. And it's funny. I was giving you props for saying as much as it is irritating for me that Rob fits the 1, 2, 3 slot in his own life, I can respect it because I also understood raising a child in a single home was that if I'm no good, I'm no good for her. And so it was always important that I was in a mental space, a mental, emotional, financial, physical, to be able to give my daughter the best life that she could, which is why for me, relationships took a bit of a back burner. It wasn't as much as and especially as she got older and she needed more of me, because people think that kids need more of you when they're younger. I found that they need more of you when they're older. And so as she needed more of me, I was like, relationships are a no. And I completely put them to the back burner. So again, I respect, as much as I respect it from a fuck your feelings component, when I throw the feelings in as the woman who lays beside you, who's with you, who's parenting with you, I'm like, that shit is fucked up because I don't get it.
And I get it. And you can't do nothing to get it. That's the funny part about it. You're not going to get it. No more than I can change the way that I see it. But I understand because there are some men out there that will. Happy wife, happy life. Let's go get it.
I'm not here.
No. I'm not conflating it to that 100%, but that's what I'm saying. There are. I don't even know how I could really put it. Like, because I can't even identify it with it. Because again, here's another analogy. On the airplane, if they say if the cabin loses pressure, the masks fall down, who are you supposed to put the mask on first?
Yourself first.
Exactly. Why is that?
So that you can have.
So if you see the old lady pass out over there, you would be like, oh, let me go put it on this old lady. And then you pass out, now you're both laying over there dead next to each other.
No, I agree. So Mr. Flowers has a question. So, and I think it's directed towards me because I have the oldest child in the relationship. Right. So being you have an older child, does your child still come before you? This is a fine line for me. Very difficult line for me.
It is.
Because I left my child. I did. Like, it's the reality. Now, I left her after she turned 18, and she always knew that I was eventually going to leave her. So it was almost like she was either going to go off to college or I was going to leave her. Either one of us, like, we were going to eventually separate. So I walk a very fine line in terms of the fact that in order to be in this relationship, I had to choose myself. I had to choose me. For the first time, I really had to say, Toshiba, you're choosing yourself by choosing this relationship, because at the end of the day, this is what you need to be done. I'm just going to talk about I get that Mr. Flowers is the same for anybody. I can tell you I have a very difficult time with that. And so I'm trying to bridge my family back together so that we can all be together. Now, when it comes to people as a whole, I think at some point we raise our children. I was having that conversation with my sister today. We raise our children to go off and be independent and live their own life. So I'm also in the space where even though I have mom guilt, and I'm very clear, I don't call it parent guilt, I call it mom guilt. And even my best friends are like, don't feel guilty, you did what you needed to do and you're living your life. So I call it mom guilt, and I completely get it. So I think it's like, you did your job, now go out and let them live their life. And so I don't feel as much as if she needs to be number one in my life, because now I'm putting myself first because I've done what I need to do. She's going to be 21 next month. So what am I going to do? Like baby her for the rest of her life? No. So yeah, once they're grown, like Mr. Flowers, yourself, you've got grown kids. It'd be hard to be like, hey, by the way, my kids need to now come before me. But I think when you have younger children, absolutely they should come. Like I have a hard time, but I respect Rob's position, but I still have a hard time dealing with it, like comprehending it, I guess. No, I comprehend it. It's the feelings part. I can comprehend it. I can get the safety net, part, right? But the feelings part of it, especially because I'm parenting with you, I'm just like, this ain't it. About it
is I went through the pain of not having those things correctly prioritized. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, delve
into
that.
And that's going through issues of putting my children before myself. So I'm like, even though this is just jabbing me in the ribs, I'm going to take it for them. And you know what happens?
What?
Like that? You just leak to death. You feel what I'm saying?
I can understand.
Like, here's one thing that just kind of came to me, and it's I know y'all, some of y'all out there hate gender comparisons and like gender roles and shit like that, but we fuck with them around here. You deal with pain. You can deal with an enormous amount of pain.
Childbirth.
If I had to deal with the pain you deal with, I couldn't take it. Yeah. I'd be ready to take myself out.
Childbirth.
I deal with pressure.
Okay.
If you had to deal with the pressure I deal with every day, you'd be hunched over like you having the worst menstrual cramps of your life.
And I can respect that,
because it's different for
because even as a single parent, I still didn't deal, because I'm still a woman who looks like this. Like, let's be clear. I make it clear to people.
You wouldn't make it to the end of you wouldn't make it to the red line.
Yeah, I'll never be homeless. I'll never be hungry. I'll never be any of those things because I'm a woman and all. So because I look like this, so my life, I don't get the same pressures you get. So again, I respect it. I'm going to go back to Mr. Flowers. He says that. So back to my question, does the age of the children make a difference? I think they do. And I think that's my difficulty with understanding Robert when I say what I say in terms of the positioning he has in his life, because you do have younger children. And so for me, like, what do you mean you're number one? Like, fuck that. Your children should be number one. You had more than enough time in your life to be number one. You had 30-something years to be number one. So you had all the practice of being number one. Fuck being number one. It's time to put the kids as number one. And you are wherever you are on the list. I'll take number two. I never actually expect to be number one. I'm smart enough to know that when you come into a relationship with someone with children from previous relationships, you cannot take the number one slot.
Okay.
Now, I agree with you when you said yesterday, you are the number one man in my life, because even though I love my daddy and I'm a daddy's girl, my daddy would not want me to have him as number one. That doesn't make any sense. That's weird. It's like, I passed you over to a man.
I'm like mushing you to get to my mama.
Exactly.
That's weird.
But I absolutely think the age of the children matter. Now, when the children are older, fuck them kids. Like, we done what we needed to do. I got an almost 21-year-old. Fuck them kids. Like, they're gonna go live their life. But when they're younger, you being number one to me is weird, even though I don't expect to be number one.
And I get it, but you it's almost impossible for you to comprehend the gap between your mom, I'm a dad. They're very different positions.
I don't know, Mr. Flowers, would you agree?
Belly, like, please.
No, I would like his opinion, because he's got older children, and I would want to know what he thinks about that, right? Like, he's got older children,
and I think there's some conflation of the context. I actually look at, like, not every dollar I earn is mine. There's a certain aspect of provision for my children and my family. Like, I don't look at it as I am the sole, I'm number one and that's it. You feel what I'm saying? I look at it like I'm number one and there's a long ass train behind me of people dependent on me. And I think that's where the difference kind of is in that.
And I say that there's a difference between being present and being active.
And what are we talking about?
If you're saying, yeah, I understand that I have to have a financial provision over my household, that's what you're saying. I want to make sure that we're on the same. You understand that when it comes to financially supporting, you can't be number one. I want to make sure we're on the right page. That's what you just said. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the question because I don't know what you're talking about. Twins Inc. said, treat your man number two, question mark, question mark, question mark. By the time the kid is older, we are strangers now. And I would not disagree. However, I think what we're thinking about is non-traditional families these days have become traditional families. We've strayed away, whether we like it or not. We would love, like, we want to promote more traditional families. Absolutely. Even though we're in a non-traditional family of being step parents and intertwining and blending, we are proposing that people go back to traditional families. But when you're joining non-traditional families where people are bringing kids, it's going to be very difficult for that spouse to ask the other spouse that I am number one over your kid. So I respect Rob saying, and I think Rob respects me saying, when it comes to the number one spot in terms of a man or a woman, he's above my daddy and I'm above his mother. But if I ever think I'm going to be above his kids, that would be difficult for me to even bear, because I think the kids should be the priority, because eventually they do get older and we do raise them. But while you have them, they have got to understand that they are the priority. That's how I look at it. There's another question. With older children, I come first now. They were number one a long time. That's why I live on the West now.
He said 1A.
1A.
You know what that means?
I don't know what one.
There's like 1A and B. That means there's still more than one number one. He's using his vernacular.
Yeah, but I okay, so explain that. But he had multiple children. Yes. Like, yeah, so they're gonna be, I only had one, so I can speak for myself. I only had one child that I had to put all of my attention into. So, my daddy had 7 of us, so I completely get from that perspective. Like, my dad had a lot of people to try to put.
Okay, so let's just flip the logic. Am I number one over your child?
No.
So how come that doesn't trigger me? Because she's older?
What are you talking about? I never said I expected to be number one. I was very clear.
Okay.
I said I expect your children to be number one in your life. If everyone's your children, I never expect to be number one. When you're coming into a blended family, it's going to be very difficult. And you look at us watching that. I don't know if you guys recently saw on social media, there was the husband and wife, and there was a whole drama because the husband is paying $500 a month, and the wife lost her crap because the mother of the child was asking for new shoes, and she's like, you're already paying $500 a month, and so forth and so on. I said, listen, she doesn't like the position she's in. She doesn't like the fucking kids. Like, let's just call it what it is. She doesn't like the kids. She clearly doesn't like the mama. She doesn't like anything about it. In her mind, $6,000 a year is leaving her household, and that should be enough. And because the wife has another man, fuck you and fuck the kid.
The entire problem is about the other woman.
It's about what it is.
85% based on her feelings about the mother.
So that is a difficult position for a man to be in. I think it's less difficult if a woman comes in like myself and says, I respect that in the order in this house, I am not going to be number one. In the order of the women in your life, absolutely. It would suck if your mama came here and you're driving around and your mama goes into the seat, the passenger seat beside you, look at me like Toshiba, go in the back. You're like, hey, yeah, Toshiba, my mom's here for the next month. You got to ride in the back. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. It's the same if we went to see my daddy. It's understood, my daddy's going to go in the back and you're going to be the driver and so forth and so on. Like, my daddy's going to be like, let me drive, and you're, what I'm saying? That's not how it works. But when it comes to the order in the house and in the family, I do not expect to be number one. I expect the kids to be number one. So again, for me, I think reconciling that you are number 1, 2, and 3 in my words. In his words, he's just number 1, and then it's whatever orders after that. So how would you rank it? If it was 1, 2, and 3, you, who's next, and then who's next? Because it's children and then spouse. What are other those options? Who's number 2? Who's number 3?
Like, that's why I'm like, I don't really dig this whole ranking system because it's putting. Could you box Danielle?
What is like box? Like slap her?
No, like boxing. If it was a match, would they put y'all in the ring together?
No, she's a
Why
child.
she weighs less than you. She's out of your age category. She's not in your lane. So when we put it all in one lane, I kind of have a problem with that because it's just like it's almost feels like false choice. Like,
okay, if you had to choose
for
the sake of the poll,
for the sake of the argument, I think the natural order of things would be yourself, spouse, then children, because that's the order of protection.
Okay, God,
you help me protect these children.
Got it.
You understand what I'm saying? And as much as I love me Pickney, they're not gonna pay no rent, they're not gonna buy no groceries, and they are not gonna put no gas in it.
And I understand that.
I have to provide for them. So I would rather, again, it's almost a historical dad issue, because dad can't be at home and pushing you on the swing. I mean, at work and pushing you on the swing. You know what I'm saying? Dad can't be working 80 hours a week and taking you to the beach every day.
I get that. You got to. It's a choice. Do you want a really good life, or do you want a really present dad?
And again, and the best dads are gonna take the most advantage of that of all of the time.
Got it.
And that's an area where I know I definitely can improve.
Absolutely.
All dads can improve in, but I'm not gonna try to make it about all. That's something personally that I think about, that I move in that space, and I'm trying to action presently. You understand what I'm saying? So I think just back to the beginning of the statement was I'm a waffle. Mm-hmm. I don't like everything touching.
No, I get that. And again, this is where it comes in of, guys, we're doing this to show you how, again, when you're having these conversations, it's to be able to understand each other, right? Like there are certain things that I don't understand because I'm not a man. And in order to be able to live in a space where we can survive, the idea of fuck your feelings is so that we can survive, right? We have talked about being in this forever. I talk about all the time of being buried on top of Robert, him buried on top of me, whoever goes first. And part of that is to be able to have these conversations, because there's some things that we truly don't understand because we are wired differently.
Right. And I think that's kind of the root of it, is when we're wired differently. A man half of the damn Bible is about relationships. Like, let's be honest.
I can agree with that.
This has never been easy. And if you can't do it kind of how we're doing it, to where, look, I'm from this planet, you from that planet. There's going to be times where it's very difficult for you to understand me, but at least it's imperative that you know what it is. So then you can choose whether you're going to fuck with that or not. And vice versa. I need to know what it is so I can choose whether I can fuck with that or not.
Well, that's the part where I said in the beginning, right? Like, if you came in off the rip saying you'll never be number one, I wouldn't have chosen. That sounds horrible. Neither one of us would have been in this relationship, right? But through the course of the relationship, you start observing your partner's behaviors and their actions and their words and so forth. And you start going, okay, is this something that over time is going to be an issue? And to us, it's like, before it becomes an issue, let's address it. Let's really tackle it. And it's funny, like, I saw those couple of things on social media, and it triggered me a bit, because I was like, you know what? I think this is a conversation that Rob and I need to have, because there's some stuff that's bothering me, because I don't quite understand how he operates in the space that he does. And I side-eye him a lot of times. I'm like,
your attitude kind of, it's a little, like a little tea kettle sometimes. It'll just be little increments. You know your boundaries and stuff like that. He said she's got boundaries. I know he beating her. You know what I mean? Like, no.
No, I know
she
when
has
I
boundaries for me. There's certain shit I can't do to her. And I understand that. And therefore, I don't do it because we have conversations like this.
Yeah, a fuck your feelings conversation is meant to keep you together. It really is. And it's difficult to have it, right? Like, it's difficult when I told Rob last night, no, I'm not going to blindside you, so I'm going to tell you what I think.
Yeah,
I think you're number one, too. And he was shocked. He was like, because he thought I was going to say the kids and then myself. And he said, that's not true.
Ooh, you know what that makes me really think about? But then when you said it, and again, it has a certain sting to it because it's like, oh, you're selfish. Dad has to be.
And that I don't get. I don't get that dad has to be. And I think my issue, and let me preface it, in our particular situation, I think, how can you be when you're truly the only parent? I am not these kids' parents.
Then they go down to zero.
Then who goes down to zero?
My kids.
Then I don't get that.
Something happens to me, they go down to zero parent.
Agree.
So
that's why you feel you gotta put yourself.
Right. That's why again, and that's just kind of the natural order. As the mother, you're built as the support. You don't ever have to feel like you have to carry the water. You're there to catch the water that I drop. Right.
Okay.
That's kind of a decent way of looking at it. You know what I'm saying? I don't get to drop.
I get that.
You know, I don't get to come home and be, babe, I don't know what we're gonna do next month. You got no job no more. I know I said I was going, but I was really going to hang out with D and them, and we were chilling and playing 2K. And look, I don't win 18 games in a row.
I'd be like, I guess I'm leaving your ass because you ain't got no money.
I'm not holding up any of the stuff that is paramount for my entire position. Look, being a man is a cold place because again, your value is in provision.
Mm-hmm. So if you're no longer the provider,
there's not many people out there looking for homeless fathers.
I get that.
There's plenty of people looking for homeless mothers.
I'll never be homeless. I say that all the time.
And it's very difficult to be a homeless mother. So especially looking like you do.
Oh yeah, I'll never be homeless. I'll never be homeless, and I'll never go hungry.
You took a suitcase and just started rolling it. I guarantee you won't make it to the light.
I'm good. Like, I have no concerns about my ability to make it out in this world. Now, I think it's interesting because, again, when I look at you from your perspective, because that's what fuck your feelings is about, I can get that. But from when I add the feelings in, I don't, because if you were coming, if it was you coming with me and my kids, where I was the only parent, there's absolutely no way I could be number one. I have to do, and again, having done it, having been, my daughter's father is around, but he wasn't the factor in her life that I was, right? And so she was always here. Now, granted, I understand if I were to take Mr. Flowers' thing in terms of like 1A, my daughter would have been 1A and I would have been 1B. We would have been fairly equal because I understood that I needed to be the best version of myself. That's why I got educated. That's why I advanced in jobs. That's why I did some of the things that I did, just to ensure that she would have the life that I wanted her to have. So it wasn't as if she was all the way up here and I was all the way down there. No, we were pretty much stacked. But a man coming into my life, oh, hell no.
He's going to be way
he would have been, somewhere around there. But I couldn't have made him a priority.
And that's why I'm saying it's just that entire situation is difficult because it's kind of baked into that. If she's a good mother, my dude, you're not going to be very important in the situation. And that kind of, if you got heavy in your feelings, you get that. But like you said, when the children are older, you know what I mean? Or when you just understand that, look, you can't just go through life with two people. Two people by themselves in a bubble is not going to make it.
Oh, well, that's why, despite our blended family, this is why I don't recommend single men becoming step parents.
No, especially if
I do not recommend it. I think if you have children, you look for people with children. If you do not have children, you mate with people who do not have children. I think that should be the natural order of things, because no matter how you spin it, you wanting to be number one, not number one man and number one woman in that person's life, when they're already attached, there is a child attached to them in some way, it's going to be hard, especially if you're coming in as a stepdad, Maybe coming as a stepmom is very different, because
you know
most
why?
stepmothers are not in my position.
You know
Hold,
why?
give me a second.
Okay.
Most stepmothers are not in my position raising the children. They see them on the weekends and on the holidays, and they say fuck them kids, and they send them back to their biological mother. It is very rare to be in a situation where you're having to really be a stepmother and raise children. Go ahead.
Nah.
The age of the stepfather is over, and it should be.
And it should be.
I think it should be.
Y'all killed that.
And I think that if you have children, date someone with children. I'm not saying that single mothers, I was a single parent. I'm not saying single, but when I was dating, I would not be looking to be with men who didn't have children, because number one, I already had a child, and number two, I didn't want any others.
Like
so I knew that I was never going to be able to fulfill what a man truly wanted, and so I always more looked for men who also had children, because I was like, I can't give you a child, and you have a child, so you should at least understand the importance of being a parent. So I'm actually going to question number 2.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you, and then I'll tell you the poll results. Is it possible to be number one in someone else's life?
No, I say by the logic of the entire spirited conversation we just had, no. And I did answer the question. No, it's just because if nothing else, like I told you, at first I was not aware you could vote for yourself. So when you factor that in, you know, like, oh, you're not going to be number one. But why do you have that desire? And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's something very human about it, and definitely something very feminine about it. You know why?
Why?
Because a single mother can better identify with that, because she's had to forego some of her femininity to pick up masculinity, because she's in the role of provider.
I got that. But you said what's really the case. When you are human and you're going on feelings, you would like to feel like I would love to feel.
Oh yeah.
I would love to feel as if I'm number one in your life. I would love to get up every day in a space feeling as if I'm number one in your life. And 63% of the people in our poll feel the same way I do, because 63% said yes, it's possible, and 27% said no, it's not. So I would love to get up every day in a space and feel, you know what? I know and I feel that I'm number one in this man's life. But I know when I feel it every day when I wake up that I'm not. And it's not a nice feeling to have. It is not a nice feeling to feel as if the person that you love so much truly doesn't give a fuck.
Because you're conflating situations. You're using the criteria of evaluation of like track athletes, where it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You ran 10-1, you ran 10-2, you ran 10-3.
I did run track.
You can't compare those athletes to team sport athletes, because you can't trot one dude. LeBron will get beat 1,000-0 by himself.
Mm-hmm.
If he go out there by himself and play 5 other dudes, what can he do?
Not much.
So how can you compare the two?
Okay, bring it back to, because you just did a sports analogy and you had me for a second and you lost me.
Again, family is a team sport, not an individual sport. So how are you ranking it like an individual sport?
But at the same time, I think for the people who want to feel as if they're number one, let's take the family, let's take the kids out of it. Let's say there's just you and that person.
Okay, simplified.
If it was just me and you would still be number one in your life, Robert. Like, let's just call it what it is. I will never be Robert will always be number one in Robert's life. And as the person who is with Robert, I'm telling you that's a difficult space for me to be in.
Because you're a female and a woman. And I'm sorry, because to me, in my headspace, look, I'm 46 years old. You know who's been there for every one of them 46 years? Me.
I get that. And I'm not saying I don't understand it. Again, taking the logic, yes. Because what fuck your feelings ends up being is logic versus feelings.
Exactly.
Taking the logic of your statement, I get it. Because again,
and you have to understand the feelings. You can't dismiss
Thank
them.
you. This is why I'm saying the logic component of me gets it. Because I always say, if you're no good to yourself, you're no good to anyone else. I understand that from a logical standpoint. But when you're the person who's immersed in someone's life, it is very difficult to deal with the fact that you understand that that person is, if there were, again, in my mind, if there were 3 slots for Rob to fill out, who the order of people, he would have Robert, Robbie 3 times. So it would all be Robert. There's no, and that's difficult from a feelings part.
Definitely.
From a logic part, I get it. You have to be strong because you've got to go there, because kids are not, because even when these kids are gone and they're out on their own and we've done and they've moved on, you're still expected to be the provider and be the man and be all of them, kids or no kids. I get that. But from a feeling standpoint, I'm like, damn, that sucks.
I get it.
And for people who want to be a number one position, and that's why I'm saying for people, like, most people would never enter a relationship knowing that they'll never be number one. But the reality is, it's difficult for you to take a number one position in someone else's life because you're fighting against, like you said, them being them for how many years they've been alive.
Here's a good analogy for it. I'm going to just break it down to personal philosophy.
Oh, Jesus.
I really do not care if people don't like me. I do care if people don't like me for reasons that are inaccurate.
Okay.
You feel what I'm saying?
I can get that.
And that's in our relationship, it is my purpose and point, hence the fuck your feelings, to make sure that the issues, the 20% is actually the 20%.
Okay.
You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. That's why we do this. It's our therapy night too. You know, we've been saying that from day one. You know, I don't care. And no, I can never use that term when I'm referring to you. I know that, but it doesn't bother me as much. Or when my talking tos, like I said, when your talking tos make sense, I take it like a man and I action it. When I feel like you just being in your what do you?
And I'm a feeling.
No. What does Joanne say? What you doing?
Oh, my white woman moments?
Yes. When you having them moments, I'll be looking at you like, come on, man. Like, I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to let you have your feelings.
No, you don't. Listen, when we have these fuck your feelings conversations and Rob does not, he gets to the point where we had enough. You don't just listen. You just like, I'm done with this, and he's out. Like, he's done. Like, he's done. And that, again, can become difficult because now I will give you have to come back and revisit it.
Yeah, I would, but yeah, it's not like
it's not like, and I'm done talking about it.
And I said it's over, woman.
So you come back and revisit it, but again, you never just leave it. But yes, like the conversations can be tough because you're putting a mirror up to your partner and making them see themselves the way you see them, which isn't always positive. Like, we need to stop this idea. Like, I don't look at Rob positively every time. There's sometimes he gets on my goddamn nerves and I'm like, Jesus Christ, we done left my picnic and everything behind for this foolishness, but I love him. And so, and again, he's got to put the mirror up to me. He said to me the other day, which was funny, he was like, if I didn't know you were Jamaican, I would think you were just unhappy all the time. And I had to laugh. And again, having that conversation with Joanne, I got it because I operate here all the time. Like, I operate up here all the time. In my entire life, I don't know any better. I'm an immigrant twice over. I was born in Jamaica, grew up in Canada, and now I'm here, an immigrant again, having to get used to another culture and all of these different things. So I'm an immigrant twice over. So when you're an immigrant twice over, you're competing against everybody else that is born in that place, that was educated in that place, and all of that. So I operate here. Robert operates somewhere and copes in and about here. And I have had to learn that I can't expect Robert to come here, because even my girlfriend said, girl, listen, like, nobody's doing this with you. Like, ain't nobody. So I've had to learn to try to come a little bit lower to meet him where he's at, which for me, again, can be difficult because I raised a child who operates up here. My life has been up here. I have a friend group that is up here. So now I'm in a space where I'm like, oh, crap. So I now have to, oh, no, that's hard. So I give it. I am very hard on you, but I'm also hard on myself.
Well, yeah, you think you're very hard on me. Sometimes you can be a bit abrasive, you know what I'm saying? But look, man, I played for Trent Jackson Sr. Nobody could ever be hard on me because that man drilled me for 4 years.
I get that. I get it. You're a professional, and that's why I think for me it's
My
even
skin
difficult.
thick as fuck.
I get
You know
that,
what
but
I'm
that's, and I
saying?
think even for me, that's where it's even a bit difficult, where I get frustrated with you, is because of the fact that you've been a professional athlete and you've operated in a different space, and I'm just like, I don't understand
Because you're trying to assign your processes and thoughts and stuff to me, but again, it's with definitely imperfect information. And doubling back to what I said, if you had to deal with my pressure, you'd understand more, but you don't.
I don't. But again, this is where it takes you putting the mirror in front of me and seeing, me for how you see me. And again,
you can always scheme.
When we're in a relationship, we would love to think that we are doing this amazing job and we're so wonderful at it, and our partner should be so lucky to have us. And in many cases, that is fact. In many cases, I think Rob can look at the relationship and say, I am so blessed to have her. And people in his life have said to him, you are so blessed to have her. But is he as blessed as I think he is? No. Because I'm thinking, I am just the best and he should da-da-da-da. And so every once in a while, the fuck your feelings conversation allows him to hold up that mirror and go, babe, there is some cracks in your armor and you need to be able to look at it and we need to converse about it. And it's the same.
But real talk though, like, yo, let's be real. Like, in different ways, I put in just as much work to have a good relationship as you do.
I don't say you don't.
And I know you don't, but in your moments, you think you do sometimes, because again, my shit always gonna stink worse than yours.
Well, yes.
That's just nature. That's every single person, though. But now you turn around, my shit definitely smells better than yours. To me.
I get it.
I can sit in there with my own stuff, read a book, watch the phone, let somebody else just finish blowing it up, and you'll be in there like,
I get
that. That's what I'm saying. The other, your shit always smell better than everybody else.
But I think if we are honest with each other, and we're really having a fuck your feelings moment. If we're honest with each other, issues are compounded with children.
Definitely.
If it was just you and I think our relationship would be very
most
different.
Relationships would be a lot smoother sailing if you compounded it.
But then you add the children to
add
it.
On regular life. That's
and
why
the expectation
them Temptation Island shows and shit like that. The people all of them dating shows damn near, because they fell in love in a bubble. And then the bubble got popped, and they had to deal with real life and loving this person in real life. And that's the thing, we really put the work in after that bubble, because all relationships start in a bubble.
Yeah. No, we definitely had a bubble.
All relationships start in a bubble.
Especially even bad ones. Bubble.
Even how you think bad relationships get to be bad ones, because it started off in a bubble and it was good.
Yeah.
But then that bubble pops and you got to deal with real life and everything that comes with real life. And a lot of people can't hack it because they don't have fuck your feelings type of conversation.
Well, I think that was what was so funny, because our fuck your feelings moment came after the bubble burst, right?
And that's, you said once, like one of your men is like, on average, most men operate, sincerely, ladies, if y'all did not know this, most men operate under the ideology that it's easier to lie to a woman than to tell her the truth.
No, I've had guys say that. My ex-boyfriend's friend said that. He was like,
it's the path of least resistance. So you say you want men not to lie, but if he actually told you how he felt or how he saw it, you're a misogynist, you don't love me, you're a bad person, you're a bad dad. It's all judgment and shame. Because again, as a man, it's cold. Nobody cares about your feelings like that. But we have these, and again, of course, it's more. Look, I can't be the more feelings person in the relationship. That shit is chaos.
I think it would be chaos.
It would be chaotic. I was saying, like, I can't be imagine if I was the clean. She's a neat freak. So if I was more of a neat freak, like, then she's under oppression. I'm coming here with the white glove and shit, like.
That's almost like abuse.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit's crazy.
So I think that's where it came to the point where it was like, if we're going to survive, if we're actually going to survive the relationship, if we're going to survive everything that compounds, again, living in that bubble, because again, we were in a bit of a COVID bubble. We met during COVID, and then we came together, and it was like kind of the world was locked down, and it was us, and we didn't have to worry about kids, and there was a time when it was just kind of that moment. But when we started adding the outside world into our relationship, that bubble burst very effing quickly. Yeah. And that's when the fuck your feelings came, and we had to say
it almost had to, because I think we both identified, like, I think we could be a good team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we both pretty quickly saw that, damn, you know, like, we've had those conversations pretty early on where I was just like the proverbial, if I had an important meeting, I would send you, because I don't think you try to take over the meeting. I think you represent the ideas that I asked you to go represent.
But what was so interesting that you say that is that we came in with a team mentality and not like a, ooh, I love you, you're just so, I mean, yes, I'm absolutely obsessed with Robert. I kiss his face all the time. I lick him. He hates it. He hates me doing this right face, now. Like, but he like I lick his face. I lick his face. I do all those things. But I think when we came together understanding that his crap and my crap and putting them together where we should go. And yes, there was love there, absolutely. And our love is still growing day by day, year by year, but we came together thinking we could a team. And I think that's what really, when that moment came, where again, imagine there's a 6'9" man talking to a little, I wasn't even in stilettos, I have 5'5", and he looked at me and says, fuck your feelings, right? That is gonna be, I think most women would have broken up with you. Most women
you'll never be number one.
Yeah. Most women would have been like, what the fuck, and made me cry. And after I clutched my, imaginary pearls, I was like, I get it, because I could recognize that if I allow my feelings to guide me in this conversation, it's going to take me in a place where we cannot be the team that we set out to be.
We can't be honest. We can't even understand where the other person coming from.
I think that was the important part. And yes, these fuck your feelings conversations are very difficult to have. It is very difficult for Rob to hear some of the things that I have to say, and it's very difficult for me to hear a lot of the things that he has to say, right? Again, and we also still have to keep that level of respect with each other.
Ooh, you know why fuck your feelings is so hard? Because the world helps you be delusional.
No, well, yeah, because it tells us that we are better than
special, unique snowflakes.
And like, so therefore,
we're all kings and queens running around here. We all get trophies. We all are winners.
So you're gonna hear things that are gonna sting, right? And I can honestly tell you, and this is why I said to Robert yesterday, like when we were having the planning meeting I said, you know what, I'm gonna already answer the question. So again, you're not surprised when I tell you that in your life, you are number 1, 2, and 3. And he was laying on, there's a couch in this room, and he laid and he kind of looked at me and paused for a second.
The initial answer hit like, damn, like I hate when people, you being selfish, like, but then it's kind of like, take the feelings away from it, and it's a reason you move in that space, dude. It's the best you. When you're putting, because if the car crashes, it's going to be because I drove it into something, not because I was over there. Kids, you got your graham crackers together, and you know what I'm saying? Like, then I took my eyes off of the road. Like,
so you're saying that being number 1 in your life is where you need to be, especially as a man. I'm going to say especially as a man, because again, everything is, the pressure's on your shoulder to move everything along. So if you start putting people in that position above you, it ends up being the happy wife, happy life, and then all of a sudden it's divorce. And
the corporate analogy I would give is the man is the CEO of the household. The CEO's number 1 job is to make sure everybody else do their fucking job.
I understand that.
That's why the CEO, it sounds crazy to me when the CEO, like, I didn't know what they were doing. Then you're a terrible CEO, because your entire job is to know everybody is doing their job.
I agree. So I think that is where the logic and the feelings, it's a line for me, because logically I get certain things in our relationship. But when I have those moments, because I want feelings, I wish I had a more romantic version of you. Let's be real. I wish I had a sweeter version of you. I wish all of those things. But I also recognize that you being number 1 will help us in the long run, but in the short term, it stings like hell. It stings not to have that romantic side that, we all want to think that we are like in Love Jones and he's up there talking about, his whole little thing. We all would love that.
Just that word writing poems.
Right?
Like not doing my work, just.
But I also logically logically recognize that if that's what all he was doing and he wasn't driving us forward, I'd be like, this is bullshit. like take your fucking poems and
cuddly ass
like,
dude. Like, come on, all you want to do is cuddle.
Right? Like, I don't want your damn poems. I want you to go out there and make some money and make sure that life is good. So it is a balance. And that's why, again, when we're having those fuck your feelings conversations, it has to be a moment where it's like, am I going to use logic or feelings in that situation? And we're inclined to go with feelings, which is why, again, it's fuck your feelings. We're inclined to go with feelings. So we have to say.
Trigger first.
Absolutely.
That's why they call it trigger. They're not talking about your intellect or your logic. They're talking about your fucking feelings.
You're right. It does trigger first. When someone, it's whatever that feeling
I said, when you said that to me, 10 seconds later, I'm like, duh, no brainer.
Yeah,
but when you say it, it's like, I'm not that guy. I know everybody.
Because it was funny because he was like, I thought your answer would be saying the kids.
Because that would have bothered me more.
And I was like, I wished it was the kids. Like in my mind, I'm like, it should be the kids. Go figure. Like I don't get how you're number one. But moving to the last question, is being number one in your spouse or partner's life important? And I think your summary of it is, again, very interesting because, from the poll, 71% said yes and 29% said no. How you summarized it to me yesterday, again, was interesting, going back to that, where it was like, as long as I'm the number one man in your life, that's all that matters.
I don't care if Trey or Danny or Grant or anybody is over me, or because why are you stack ranking us? That's kind of, again, that's how I'm wired. As long now, if there was any other man, that's why we talked about it. We say cheating isn't a deal breaker, but there's a lot of fucking context to that shit too. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it's a whole different conversation. We'll say that for another night.
Go into it.
No, it's. If I cheat on you, you can remain number one.
How so?
What do you mean?
How so? I wanted for the people them. For
the people them, like, see how it was almost like, what do you mean? How so? Like, what do you mean? You're still number one. I don't care about it, bitches. Like, men can have sex with with a woman they don't even like if she's hot enough.
Okay, get that. But I'm not having sex with a man if I'm not emotionally, I'm not just giving up my pom pom.
If you start on with another dude, it's very, very difficult for me to look at it like something ain't changed on this side. You feel what I'm saying? And I think women just refuse to accept that. They refuse to want to give that up. And that's why it's almost like, yo, fellas, man, I hate to say it, but like if you ain't got an understanding with your woman and you do get caught cheating, you might as well dip, bro. Because if she does stay with you, it ain't gonna be good.
Yeah, building that trust back would be difficult.
Bro, you never come out of that space.
No, it's gonna be very difficult to build that trust.
You're never gonna.
I get that. And again, when we were talking about it, I understood. Again, that's the part about having these difficult conversations. And for us, luckily, after over a year of having them over and over and over again, we understand each other, well enough. But it is a difficult conversation to have because you have to be in a space where you're going to accept what it is that your partner is saying. I get that. Me going out and cheating on Rob, he understands me well enough to know that there's got to be some emotional attachment. It isn't just me going the girls' weekend in Miami.
Man, it ain't clean.
And I'm like, yeah, I just met someone and I never see them again. I'm probably going to be texting, talking. This man has gotten to me somehow.
Yep.
As opposed to you going out and never talking to her again.
That's it. And it wouldn't even be, you know what I'm saying? There's certain things, like me cheating in Phoenix, you're gonna have a very difficult time with that.
Absolutely. Because you were seeking somebody else.
Like, nigga, I'm right here. What are you doing? So you had to be doing some other stuff.
Some slimy shit.
You know what I'm saying? Me being in Vegas on a boys trip, that's the analogy we use. You're like, them niggas are stupid. I know they didn't stop him or nothing like that. But he is not. He probably don't even got that girl number.
No, I know you wouldn't.
Because that's how I kept it clean. Like, I don't even know how to get in touch with that.
I get that. So that's why, again, and I get this. I get why 71% of people saying being number one in your spouse partner's life. But I also understand you saying, but it's not a stacked ranking.
That's where I have it. I think it's the wrong way of looking at it. If you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, where's the list there? It's like the draft or something. You got picked 7th round, 238th pick, cousin Earl, third cousin Earl. Like what the fuck? No, so you're the number. You have the children, you have your spouse, you have your spiritual beliefs, your God, your whatever that is. Those things don't touch.
So for you, it's a linear. It's more of a linear. Right? It's not stacked.
No, it's like horizontal.
Yeah,
it's a flat organization.
So it's like this here, this here, this here, this here.
Equally important, because again, for the average man, you knock any one of those things out of whack, his whole shit starts to suffer.
And I think for some of us women, and dare I say most of us, we do stack rank.
I like the stack rank.
And that can be dangerous.
Very.
Because that's when our feelings start to be, and this is what leads to the divorce of, but he doesn't love me anymore.
Y'all like to act out when you don't feel a certain kind of way. Like a theme on paternity court, I am forced to listen to this show, even though I have advised her that it is toxic, but she don't listen to me.
I did join
a theme on this show is dude cheats on her, she goes cheats on him times 4.
Gets pregnant, don't know who the big daddy is.
And then has the nerve to think that they were comparable. Mm-hmm. That it was the same. Well, you cheated. Women, you giving that box up is not the same as me slanging this D. It never will be. And I'm sorry if that bothers you.
I don't have much to say about that. I'm gonna leave that one there alone. This has been an interesting conversation, and I think I want to reiterate for people, this is what we're going to be doing more of.
Yeah, we're season 3.
We're moving into season 3, and really what we want you to do is really have behind the scenes of our lives and real life fuck your feelings conversations.
And more interactivity, like we want to hear from y'all. Like we're not just doing this to hear ourselves talk. This is our therapy night, but y'all are our therapists. Y'all, that the audience is our therapist. Like you guys help us drive these conversations. Sometimes y'all help me back up my crazy thinking. You know what I mean? Because again, I am a person. I don't really like beliefs because beliefs will make you kill somebody. You know what I'm saying? Beliefs will make you die over them. Ideas are fluid.
Rob likes ideas.
You have an idea. Well, that was a bad idea because someone else gave you some information, and you're like, "Well, I had this idea, and I thought it was a good idea, but now it's a bad idea." I've been grooming myself like that for a long time now. You know what I mean?
So,
where most people like to believe in things.
So, moving on from Robert and his beliefs and ideologies, again, we want to bring you more real life, fuck your feelings discussions. We want to hear from you. We want to know some of the topics you would like us to be talking about, some of the questions you have about our relationship.
Suggestions.
Some of the questions you have about our relationships. We have no problems. It's like Rob says, we're private people, we're not secretive people, right? And so this was the first of many to come where we have to have a real fuck your feelings conversation. And some of the stuff that we say to each other, we get that it's going to sting, and you're going to see it. You're going to see some of that stuff sting, but the reality is, if we want to stay together, coaxing through the relationship, acting as if everything is fine, is not what's going to help us in the long run. Holding on to, and I love the fact that you talked about the trigger, right? Because when you trigger someone, you trigger their feelings, you trigger their emotion. You don't necessarily trigger their logic. Right. And so that's the point of it. Like, we try not to do triggers, but we do try to have honest, real discussion. And it is difficult, again, for you to hear the space that I'm in and where I think you should be. And it's difficult for me to understand and hear, like, damn, like, as much as I'd love to occupy that space, I'm never going to occupy that space.
Well, one of the things is, like, again, as a man coming from you, it is you expressing areas where I'm deficient. Mm-hmm. And when that's accurate, there's no way for that to be a good feeling.
Oh.
It's impossible to feel good.
Oh. Is that?
But you have to deal with it.
So the fuck, and I guess that's the other part that we have to talk about then. When you're having a fuck your feelings conversation, it will make you feel deficient. But that's not the point
where
of
it stops.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the point of staying in the deficient place, right? It's a matter of now, okay, I recognize that there's this area that I need to improve. Let's talk about how I can improve it.
Or that's an area I can't improve.
So how are we going to deal with it?
You need to figure out how you're going to deal with it.
That's fact.
It could be one or the other, but you got to be careful how you choose them. You got to pick your battles, because there's certain, like I said, if I could think differently about certain things, I would. But then there's other things I know I'm tripping, like ideas, logic, thoughts, beliefs, feelings.
And that's the difficult part for me being in a relationship with you, is feelings are way over there. Where feelings for me are kind of like right here. But they're all over all of this, right? And Rob's like, fuck the feelings. And he'll eventually come back to it. But again, when you're all
it's
up
never
in
fuck your feelings, baby.
No, I get it. He's never just like, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. I think that's the difference. Fuck your feelings, I don't give a fuck about your feelings is very different. So let me also clarify that. I think a lot of people might go, oh my God, how do they have a relationship when she thinks that he doesn't give a fuck about her feelings? I absolutely do not think that, right? In the moments when I'm like, oh my God, I want him to be all over here, it can be sting a little bit. But there's a difference between I don't give a fuck about your feelings and fuck your feelings. Because fuck your feelings saying stop for a moment. Because if you take your feelings out of what's going on, let's look at the logic of the situation. Is the way you're thinking about this makes sense? What's really going on here? Let's get to the root cause, the logical aspect of what's going on, because we can solve it. Because the moment you start to layer that shit with feelings, you're never going anywhere.
Chaos.
And that actually is the best way to show you do give a fuck about my feelings. Because you're willing to take what I'm saying, analyze what I'm saying, and discuss about how do we go about dealing with it, whether it is we're going to try to fix it, or whether it's like, babe, like, this is who I am and how we're going to deal with this so that we can move forward.
Okay, because that's not just a me and you thing. I think that's a relationship again, man. Some of our problems are Robert and Toshiba.
Yeah.
Some of our problems are
very
men
and women.
And
I think a lot of our problems are men and
most
women.
of them.
I think other than our cultural differences in certain things, like I think most of them are men and women.
And here's the funny thing about that. Like they don't really go anywhere. You know, they've been there since
dawn of time.
It's always going to be there.
And it's for us to, like, again, this was a good conversation for me because I had to understand from a male perspective, and thank you, Twins and Mr. Flowers, for being involved, of kind of giving me that moment of getting, yeah, Rob, it is a man thing, because here are men who are chiming in who are like, yeah, if I'm not number one, then what the hell is going to happen?
The house is in chaos.
How is this going to work if I'm supposed to put everybody else in front of me, again, stacked as opposed to linear? I now understand that when it comes to being the number one woman in your life, that position is mine. But when it becomes being number one in your life in a stacked way, that's you. And I have to be okay with that. And in order for our relationship to survive, is I have to own it and be okay with, as long as I'm the number one woman, we're good. Because if you start placing other women above me, then we're going to have a problem.
I know.
And if I start putting other men above you, then we're going to have a problem.
Even your boss. On both sides. Though.
I get that.
You know, I got a female manager and we got plans and I'm constantly, but babe, Jessica needs me. I got to do this deal and get this.
Yeah, I'm not the fuck Jessica.
It starts feeling like Jessica more important than you.
I get that.
What's his name? You know, the guy that runs y'all thing. All of a sudden, y'all having late night, quote unquote, meetings and shit. And I'm like, no, I'm not feeling that.
Yeah, we had dinner plans. When you talk about, you got to jump on the
he getting the better part of you.
Yeah. So, and that's the key, is the number one position in the person's life. I get the best parts of you.
Yes, you do.
I get the best parts.
I'm glad you don't have a hard time with that.
No, and again, because if they're stacked, I love how you said they're stacked and linear. If I've been thinking stacked, where you're like, no, you're in a category all of your own.
Really pay attention to the fact of what I said, because for a man, you got all of these boxes sitting up on this beam. Mm-hmm. You knock one of them boxes off, his whole life is in chaos.
I get that.
Just one.
So you start
knocking multiples or moving them around and stuff. That's how he's got his life set up. Every man in his head has how he wants his life set up. And that's where our grind comes from. Like the comparison they said, y'all live for stuff to do. We live to get to the point where we ain't got to do shit.
I get that. I appreciate that. Now we're going to get to the question and answer component. We'll probably do 3 each and see what happens. Thank you for everybody who is joining us.
Gave us we needed a show like this.
And we're having more shows.
What's your favorite way for me to initiate sex? Oh, she already knows that answer to that one.
What's your favorite way? Answer for the people then. What is your favorite way for me?
30-day challenge. 30-day challenge to get it done every time.
Let me just be clear. Robert is spoiled. If I have not said this before, Robert is spoiled.
Look, I'm telling you, you adopted 30-day challenge, I guarantee you 15% improvement in your relationship.
Let me just explain what the 30-day challenge is. So we're going, and we had started a new 30-day challenge, and because I missed like 3 days in a row, I have to start it over. So the 30-day challenge is a 30-day fellatio challenge where for 30 days I perform on him. It's a whole ritual. I take a rag, I wipe him down, I make sure he's good, and we do what we do. It either can lead to sex or not lead to sex, but it's
no pressure on me.
It's no pressure on him.
100%.
It's all about him, and he's spoiled because the last 30-day challenge I missed 4 days, and he told me I had to make it up. So this 30-day challenge, because I missed 3 days in a row because life got busy for us, let me just start it over because I'm not trying to hear this man's mouth, but you are absolutely
No, I'm not gonna. I wasn't even gonna say shit like, because you think I don't know when our life gets busy. You know? Because it's not just you. I can initiate sex too.
I get it.
So again,
but you're not going to be like, babe, time for my 30-day challenge.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to come in. Kick the door in.
But it's so funny. It's so funny when he knows it's like it's time. He literally is on the bed and he's like sprawled out like this, and his legs are out. He's like, "Come do me, babe." And I was like, and because he can hear me in the bathroom getting the rag, because the rag has to be warm. He likes it warm, and so I get it to a certain temperature and I get it warm, and it's this whole thing. Yes, he is spoiled, and Rob is the man.
You're gonna paint me out as an abuser again. Because when you look, you are pissing. You see how twins is like Rob the man and happy for me and big up, and women are like, bitch.
Well, Sorla just say just said 30 days question mark and one big stroops, which is a kiss to you. She was like, she was like, if anything never happens to me, you can't
be setting standards like that.
She could never take my place because she's not doing no fucking 30-day challenge.
But that's the thing. Like, man, Chris Rock made a joke forever ago. Women can't go backwards lifestyle-wise. Men can't go backwards sexually.
No,
you can't have a chick doing this stuff and then start dealing with a church mouse after that.
Yeah, like
you like this.
I'm
is
just
not
saying.
Working.
If y'all want to
have a chick in a 5-bedroom and move her into the studio.
I'm just saying.
She's gonna have a big time problem.
If y'all want to take my spot, y'all have to be doing 60-day challenges because I'm on it.
She's secure in her position.
I'm good.
I don't know what y'all out there doing. I'm trying to tell you.
So let's say says, sorry, bro. Say you're on your own.
It's okay. It's okay. Because I know.
So my question was, do you believe in luck? No, I believe in opportunity. They say that luck is just what? Opportunity plus preparation.
Yeah, it's where operation and preparation.
Yeah, preparation and opportunity meet each other. So no, I believe in being prepared when opportunities. Listen, ask him again. Now, I will tell you, twins, we did go ring shopping. Mm-hmm. We have gone ring shopping, and we have picked out two, one that I liked and one that he likes, and he has it. He knows how much it costs. He knows that there's no pressure. So, but the ring is coming, and it's beautiful. Either set he chooses.
She can't
I love it.
Sleep on that ring, though. So, again, there's some other things that we are in unison need to be addressed and taken care of. And yes, we will definitely be getting that done.
And you guys see the behind the scenes when it's done.
We're moving again. We're on a journey together, y'all. Definitely. Oops.
You can't leave me.
On paper.
I'll just ask my question then. Is there anything I do that irritates you and that you wish I would stop doing?
Yes. many things, but the what's did I wish you would stop doing? Again, I'm not wired like that. I've accepted so much of the shit that you do that annoys me that it's just built into the cost of loving you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. I don't need a refund or nothing like that. But if I could put the how she just has a big reaction about little things sometimes. It's just like it makes me almost want to have, jump into the drama with her, but I have to remember only one of us gets to
And
be
I
that
think
way.
Joanne would probably say it's because I'm Jamaican. So everything is
Lord have mercy. Like if I drop this mouse off the table, she's like,
Robert! Leave me alone.
Okay.
Oh,
Would you rather have sex on a plane or on a moving train? The train sounds a lot more comfortable.
Really? Because the plane, I guess you'd have to be in the bathroom.
I'm 6'9".
You are 6'9".
Me peeing on the plane is uncomfortable by myself.
That's true. No, I put
I'm in
all...
here like...
And
so,
then,
yeah.
Then I bring all
I'm
this...
not a part of the Mile High Club because, no.
No, it would be too much.
That's like the Jailhouse Club or something like that. Like, have you ever had sex in a cell? It's 6x9. It's not really designed for all of that, but you ever seen a video of guys fighting in a cell?
Yeah.
It's incredible because they stand right there next to each other.
Oh my God, you've gone too far.
I know, but it's just,
on.
yeah, man, nah. So the train, we got the whole, it's like a hotel room in
Yeah,
there.
I get that. They've got some nice little suites.
You put the
and
window
stuff.
up, see the scenery going by.
Yeah, so again, no Mile High Club for me.
Yeah. What's the best relationship advice you've ever received? Well, actually, we came up with it together. Fuck your feelings.
That is a good one. That is the best relationship advice we've received from each other and that we can give to you.
So yes, we're picking number one ourselves again.
Love it. What is a petty thing people do that gets on your nerves? It's not a petty thing that they do, but it's something that they say. I hate the word conversate. I cannot stand the word conversate. And when people say it over and over again, I'm like, one does not conversate. They have a conversation. One converses. And so it annoys me, especially because a lot of you Americans do it.
As a Jamaican, you're being kind of hypocritical.
Why? Because we don't say conversate.
No, you mispronounce a lot of words.
No, we mispronounce a lot of it.
That's what I'm saying. You mispronounce. Like,
there's
you mispronounce a bunch of shit.
There's
You're gonna
mispronouncing.
get on somebody.
And there's purposely saying the word conversate, truly thinking it's a thing. Like
I want to chime in on that question because it reminds me of something that happened today.
Okay.
I sound misogynist, I know, but ladies, y'all getting kind of carried away with some of this shit. Like, in thinking that every man wants you or is looking at you or is.
Tell me what happened with that. You
I'm
wanted
going to get my lunch. This little olive oil type thing was headed like. First, she coming down, so I'm coming like this angle. She's coming like the opposite angle, heading into the grocery store. She got her head in her phone, so as I'm walking towards her, then she notices me, and then she lingers back and like lets me go to, I guess, to be like, see where I'm going or make sure that like didn't want like I was like, and just the energy was that
you're following her.
Like I'm some type of interest or threat or anything to her, and it was just almost like I was like kind of like, bitch, you wish, you know what I'm saying? Like you're not even registering to me, other than that little play you just made. They're like it's offensive, and I know most guys have had that type of interaction with a woman where like, excuse me, ma'am, do you know how to get the Thunderbird? Like,
I have a boyfriend.
I got a boyfriend. Bitch, I'm just asking for directions. Damn. And it makes you feel a certain kind of way, for real.
I get that. So I can get that would be irritating. Yeah. And I mean, you're already 6'9", so it should be one of those things where it's just like...
Sure, I'm like, come on, man. Like, not in a million years.
You wish.
You wish.
So, thank you guys for joining. Again, as we move into season 3, which will be at the end of next month, we are definitely going to move into, and it's going to be happening now every week, but season 3 does start next month. But we're moving into where we're having real, in live, fuck your feelings conversations about whatever topic it is. We would love for people to give us topics that they'd like us to discuss.
Yeah,
Ask us questions about our relationships. We really are an open book. Again, if we're gonna have a fuck your feelings show, we need to have fuck your feelings conversations. And so we've evolved the show to be like every week you're going to see in person a fuck your feelings conversation. And some of it might get uncomfortable. Let's be clear. Some of it might get uncomfortable because the fuck your feelings conversation is not comfortable. So if we're expecting you to fuck your feelings in your relationships, we're gonna have to fuck our feelings on the show. So again, feel free. Any questions, any ideas, anything that you have, let us know and we will delve into it. Before we go, as usual, though, I have to thank our sponsor, Sorrel and Sage. Make sure that you're hitting them up. They are having a sale right now. If you go on shopsorrelandsage.com, you can take part of the sale. They do have a new body butter called Sheba. And it is amazing, just like the real Sheba. So make sure you hit her up at shopsorrelandsage.com and check out her Instagram at sorrelandsageca. Robbie?
No, that's it, man. Thanks for joining us. Those of you that had the chance to stop by. So, a few of y'all really hung out with us tonight, it looks like.
I paused it.
Yeah, she being weird.
Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
Now, if I did that,
that was me.
Robert, oh my God,
I don't know, touching this thing.
Smacking me on the leg or something.
Say Sorrel and Sage is saying that it's 30 to 50% off everything on the site, and that is a great deal. She makes everything by herself. She be churning butter, guys, for real. And the butter's named Sheba.
And yes, comfortability is definitely not a word either. But no, just thanks for rocking with us. We appreciate it. We're thankful for you. You could be spending your time doing so many different damn things. So those of you, if you just coming in to check us out for 5 or 10 minutes, man, it doesn't matter. We're here to change the conversation around Black relationships, and the way that we're doing it is by showing you how we talk. We've had people say y'all talk to each other crazy and all kind of stuff, but when there's fair rules of engagement. Like, again, I don't ever just get to come kicking the door, slamming it,
kicking the door, slamming the 4-4.
Yeah, it was an FYF moment. No, we act because again, I know when something is going to be difficult for her to digest, and vice versa. So we usually preface this.
This is going to be a fuck your feelings conversation.
This is going to be one of them type of conversations. You're probably not going to like what I got to say, but I got to say it because, again, you got the choice to fuck with it or not. And we choose to continue to fuck with each other. We hope y'all continue to fuck with us, and see y'all next Thursday.
Thank you, and bye-bye. ShopSorrelandSage.com, guys. See you next week. Bye. Robbie, 3 times I need you to go do that. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.